The massive exploration vessel Starseeker drifted silently through the void of deep space, its sensors sweeping the darkness for anything of interest. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, his tall, gray-skinned form reflected in the massive viewport. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he watched the endless stream of stars pass by. "Captain, we're detecting something unusual in Sector 7, reported Navigator Tom, his antenna twitching with excitement. "It appears to be an artificial structure." Reed moved to the holographic display, his long fingers dancing across the controls. The image zoomed in on a dark shape floating against the backdrop of space. As the ship's external lights illuminated the object, the bridge crew fell silent. It was a warship, but unlike any they had seen before. Its hull was dark and angular, bearing the scars of ancient battles. Strange markings decorated its side, and after a moment, the ship's computer translated them. U.S. Thunder. "A human vessel," Reed said, his voice carrying a hint of dismissal. How quaint. He had studied the histories of Earth's first attempts at interstellar travel. In his opinion, they were crude affairs, barely worth noting in the grand history of space exploration. Marcus, the young archaeologist aboard the Starseeker, rushed onto the bridge. His scaled skin shimmered with an iridescent blue that betrayed his excitement. "Captain, permission to organize a detailed scan of the vessel." Reed waved a hand dismissively. "If you must. Though I don't see what we could learn from such a primitive craft. It's probably from their first expansion era, before they even mastered basic gravitational manipulation." Marcus ignored the captain's condescending tone. His instruments were already gathering data about the derelict ship. According to the database, this ship was lost about 200 years ago. It just disappeared during a routine patrol. No distress signal, no debris field, nothing. The Starseeker's crew continued their scans, revealing more details about the ancient vessel. It was massive for its era, nearly a kilometer in length. Its hull was made of materials that seemed surprisingly advanced, even by current standards. "Captain," Marcus called out, his voice trembling slightly. "These readings, they're strange. The ship's power core appears to be in some kind of suspended state. It's not dead, just sleeping." Reed walked over to Marcus's station, his expression skeptical. "Impossible. Human technology of that era couldn't possibly maintain a power core for 2 centuries. He studied the readings himself, his 4 eyes narrowing. "It must be a malfunction in our sensors." But Marcus wasn't listening. He was too absorbed in the data streaming across his screen. The Thunder's design was unlike anything he had seen in the historical records. Its weapon mounts were more numerous than documented human ships of that era, and there were strange energy signatures that defied explanation. "Sir," he said carefully, "I request permission to leave a small team aboard. There might be valuable historical data we could recover." Reed sighed heavily. "Very well, but be quick about it. We have more important surveys to conduct." He turned to his crew. "Designate this find as the Relic in our logs. At least the Council's historical division might find it interesting." As preparations for boarding began, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The Thunder's design suggested capabilities far beyond what humans should have possessed 2 centuries ago. Its hull composition alone would have required engineering knowledge that, according to official records, humanity wouldn't develop for another 50 years. The boarding team assembled in the Starseeker's launch bay. Marcus checked his environmental suit one last time, his hands shaking with anticipation. Through the bay windows, he could see the Thunder floating serenely in space, its dark hull reflecting the light from their ship's external lamps. "Just an old human warship," one of the security officers muttered. "Probably not even worth the energy to scan it." Marcus smiled to himself. In his experience, the most significant discoveries often came from objects others dismissed. As their shuttle approached the Thunder's massive hull, he noticed something odd about the ship's surface. What they had initially thought were battle scars looked more like carefully designed channels, as if the entire hull was one giant circuit board. The young archaeologist's hearts beat faster. Maybe this relic wasn't as primitive as everyone thought. Maybe, just maybe, humanity's old warship still had some secrets left to share. 3 days had passed since the discovery of the Thunder. Marcus and his team had made little progress boarding the ancient human vessel, its hull proving surprisingly resistant to their cutting tools. Captain Reed grew increasingly impatient with what he saw as a waste of resources. "Your fascination with primitive technology is becoming a problem," Reed told Marcus during their morning briefing. "We need to move on to the Centauri sector." Before Marcus could argue, the bridge's emergency lights flashed red. Navigator Tom's antennas went rigid, a sign of extreme distress among his species. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Tom shouted, "Energy signatures match. The swarm." Reed's 4 eyes widened in horror. Everyone knew about the swarm, a hostile species that attacked without warning or mercy. Their ships looked like massive insects, black and chitinous, with weapons that could tear through most defenses. "Battle stations," Reed ordered, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his gray skin's rapidly paling color. "Contact the colony on New Haven. They need to be warned." But it was already too late. 5 swarm battleships emerged from hyperspace, their massive forms blocking out the stars. Each one was 3 times the size of the Star Seeker, bristling with biological weapons that pulsed with sickly green energy. "Colony communications are being jammed," the communications officer reported. 2 more swarm ships approaching from Sector 9. Marcus watched in terror as the first volley of swarm weapons struck the Star Seeker's shields. The entire ship shuddered, and warning alarms blared throughout the vessel. "Shields at 60%. Someone yelled. "Their weapons have adapted to our frequency." Captain Reed managed to maneuver the Star Seeker behind a nearby asteroid, buying them precious seconds. "Launch distress beacons. Where's the nearest Council fleet?" 4 hours away at best speed, sir." Another hit rocked the ship. Marcus stumbled against a console, and as he steadied himself, his eyes fell on the external camera display. There, still floating serenely in space, was the Thunder. From this angle, he could see something he'd missed before. What looked like weapon ports, far more advanced than anything documented from that era. "Captain," Marcus shouted, "the Thunder. What if it still works? What if we cooled?" "This is not the time for your obsession with human relics," Reed snapped, ordering another evasive maneuver. "We need real solutions." The Star Seeker shuddered again. "Shields at 30%. Hull breach on Deck 7. Marcus ran to his research station, fingers flying over the controls. The scans showed active power signatures. "The ship isn't dead. It's in some kind of standby mode. If we could just—" A direct hit from a swarm weapon cut him off. The bridge lights flickered, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Through the viewport, they could see 3 swarm ships moving to surround them. "We've lost weapons," the tactical officer reported. "Primary power core is failing." In desperation, Marcus activated the emergency channel. "This is Research Vessel Star Seeker to U.S. Thunder. If any systems are operational, if anyone or anything is listening, we need help. Colony New Haven is under attack." Reed didn't even bother responding to what he saw as a futile gesture. He was too busy trying to keep his ship in one piece as another swarm blast struck them. But in the darkness of space, something changed. Unnoticed by the battling ships, subtle lights began to flicker across the Thunder's hull. The channels that Marcus had observed earlier started to glow with a faint blue energy. Deep within the ancient warship's core, systems that had slept for 2 centuries began to stir. The Thunder's AI, dormant but never truly dead, processed the situation. Its original mission protocols were clear: protect human colonies and their allies. As the Star Seeker's shields finally failed and the swarm moved in for the kill, no one noticed the Thunder's ancient engines beginning to power up. No one saw the weapon ports slowly opening, revealing technology that had been deliberately hidden from the galaxy. The Relic was waking up, and the swarm was about to learn why humanity's warships had once been feared across the stars. As the Star Seeker drifted, crippled by swarm attacks, Marcus made a desperate decision. Using the last functioning shuttle, he launched himself toward the Thunder. Captain Reed's voice crackled over his communicator, ordering him to return, but there was no time for caution. "If I'm wrong, we're all dead anyway," Marcus muttered as his shuttle approached the ancient warship. The glowing lines across the Thunder's hull had grown brighter, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to follow patterns he couldn't quite understand. His shuttle's sensors detected an active airlock. Against all logic, the ship's life support systems were running. As he docked, the airlock cycled automatically, as if welcoming him aboard. Inside, emergency lights cast a soft blue glow through the corridors. The air was breathable, somehow kept fresh by systems that had run for centuries. Marcus rushed through the halls, following the increasing power signatures his scanner detected. He found the bridge easily enough. It was larger than he expected, filled with stations that seemed both alien and familiar. But it was what he found at the engineering station that made his heart skip a beat. A hologram flickered to life, showing a human in an old-style uniform. The recording was scratched and jumpy, but still clear enough to understand. "This is Chief Engineer James Cooper, U.S. Thunder. Final log entry," the human's voice echoed through the bridge. "The quantum core is stable. The tests were successful, maybe too successful. We've built something that could change everything, or destroy everything if it falls into the wrong hands." Marcus watched, fascinated, as Cooper's hologram continued. "The Council isn't ready for this technology. Hell, maybe humanity isn't ready either. The Thunder's weapons could tear a planet apart. Her shields could withstand a supernova. The AI, it's beyond anything we've admitted to having." The recording showed Cooper working at his station, entering commands. "So we're going dark. The Thunder will sleep until she's needed. If you're seeing this, then something big enough has happened to trigger the emergency protocols. God help whoever made that necessary." The hologram flickered out, but now the engineering console was alive with light. Marcus rushed to it, his archaeological training helping him decipher the ancient human controls. What he found amazed him. The Thunder wasn't just a warship. It was a testbed for technology centuries ahead of its time. The quantum core Cooper mentioned didn't just power the ship. It existed partially outside normal space, making it virtually infinite in its energy output. "Amazing," Marcus whispered, reading through the ship's specifications. They weren't primitive at all. They were so far advanced, they had to hide it. A new alarm blared through his communicator. The Star Seeker was taking critical damage. Through the Thunder's viewport, he could see the swarm ships circling his wounded vessel like hungry predators. Marcus's fingers flew across the engineering station. "The AI core, where is it?" There. He found the master control panel, covered in dust but still functional. Please work. He pressed his hand against the activation panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire bridge lit up, displays coming to life all around him. A calm, confident voice spoke from hidden speakers. "Primary AI EDLAS restored. Situation analysis in progress." The voice paused for exactly 1 second. "Multiple hostile contacts detected. Friendly vessel under attack. Colony threatened. Original mission parameters apply." Marcus felt the deck vibrate under his feet as ancient engines powered up. All across the massive ship, weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. Shield generators that operated on principles still unknown to modern science hummed to life. "Wait," Marcus said, realizing what was about to happen. "How do I control all this? I don't know how to fight a ship." "You don't need to," Atlas replied, and Marcus could have sworn the AI sounded almost eager. "This is what we were built for. Recommend you secure yourself, Engineer Marcus. Combat maneuvers will begin in 30 seconds." The swarm was about to discover that they'd done more than just wake up an old human warship. They'd roused a sleeping giant, one that had been holding back its true power for 2 centuries. And now, the thunder was done holding back. On the Star Seeker's bridge, Captain Reed watched helplessly as 3 swarm ships moved in for the kill. His ship's weapons were dead, shields gone, and hull breaches on multiple decks. The end seemed certain. Then something happened that made even the swarm ships pause. The Thunder's dark hull blazed to life. Lines of blue energy that had seemed like simple decoration suddenly pulsed with blinding intensity. The ancient warship's form seemed to shift, armor plates sliding and realigning themselves into new configurations. By the stars, Reed whispered, all 4 eyes fixed on the sight. Inside the Thunder, Marcus gripped his seat as the ship's transformation continued. Weapon ports that had been perfectly hidden within the hull geometry emerged. The bridge came fully alive around him, holographic displays showing tactical information in crystal-clear detail. Warning, Atlas announced, its voice calm but carrying an edge of anticipation. Modern Council protocols detected in friendly vessel. Adjusting weapons to non-lethal output for swarm vessel suppression. Non-lethal? Marcus asked, confused. Against swarm ships? Correct. The Thunder was designed to disable rather than destroy when possible. Previous engagements showed a 98.7% success rate in neutralizing enemy vessels without destruction. The swarm ships, perhaps sensing the new threat, turned their attention to the Thunder. Green energy beams lanced out, striking the seemingly vulnerable human vessel. They might as well have been throwing pebbles at a mountain. Where the beams hit, ripples of blue light spread across an invisible barrier. The Thunder's quantum shields didn't just block the attacks, they absorbed them, growing stronger with each hit. Hostile energy weapons analyzed. Atlas reported. Efficiency rating low. Threat level minimal. Beginning countermeasures. The Thunder moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. Its engines didn't flare with normal plasma. Instead, the space around them seemed to bend and twist. Marcus realized with awe that the ship wasn't so much flying as it was manipulating gravity itself. Multiple targeting solutions available. Atlas announced, executing precision strikes. From ports along the Thunder's hull, beams of pure white light emerged. They looked almost delicate compared to the swarm's weapons, but when they touched the first swarm ship, something remarkable happened. Instead of exploding, the swarm vessel simply stopped. All its lights went dark, its weapons fell silent, and it began to drift helplessly in space. What did you do? Marcus asked, amazed. Quantum field disruption, Atlas explained. Their power systems have been temporarily phased out of normal spacetime. They will recover in approximately 47 minutes. Crew life support remains functional. On the Star Seeker's bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence as the ancient human warship methodically disabled 2 more swarm vessels. The remaining ships attempted to retreat, but the Thunder was faster, its gravity drives letting it move in ways that seemed to ignore normal physics. Captain, Navigator Tom reported, his antenna twitching in disbelief, I'm detecting energy readings from that ship that shouldn't be possible. It's like it's generating the power of a small star. Reed couldn't reply. He was too busy watching as the last swarm ship tried to fire its most powerful weapon, a planet killer beam that could punch through a moon. The Thunder didn't even try to dodge. The beam struck the human ship directly. For a moment, the Thunder was completely hidden in green energy. But when the light faded, it was completely untouched. In response, it fired a single, almost gentle-looking pulse that left the mighty swarm vessel drifting and powerless like its companions. This is Atlas of the U.S. Thunder. A voice suddenly came through every speaker on the Starseeker. Area secured. Be advised that 5 disabled swarm vessels require collection. Recommend Council containment protocols. Marcus's voice followed. Captain Reed, the Thunder is fully operational, and well, I think we've only seen a fraction of what it can do. Permission to begin proper diplomatic contact between your crew and this vessel's eye." Reed stared at the ancient warship that had just casually disabled 5 swarm battleships without destroying a single one. 2 centuries of assuming humanity's technological inferiority suddenly seemed very, very foolish. "Permission granted," he said quietly. "I believe we have a lot to learn about human engineering." The brief peace after disabling the first wave of swarm ships didn't last long. Space itself seemed to tear open as a massive portal appeared, disgorging the largest swarm vessel anyone had ever seen. "Swarm high ship detected," Atlas announced calmly. "Class, ultra heavy. Estimated crew complement, 1 million combat units." Marcus stared at the monstrosity through the Thunder's viewport. The high ship was shaped like a giant hornet, its black hull gleaming with biological armor. It was easily 20 times larger than the Thunder. "By the stars," he whispered, "can we fight something that big?" Previous engagements with similar vessels. 3, Atlas replied. Victory ratio, 100%. However, this model appears to be 17% larger than previously encountered versions. On the Starseeker's bridge, Captain Reed and his crew watched in tense silence. Their own ship's repairs were underway, but they were in no condition to fight. The high ship's response came instantly. Hundreds of smaller craft poured from its launch bays, a mix of fighters and medium-sized destroyers. At the same time, massive weapon ports opened along its hull, charging with sickly green energy. "Multiple hostile launches detected," Atlas reported. "Initiating full combat protocols. Engineer Marcus, please authorize weapons-free status." Marcus took a deep breath. "Weapons-free, Atlas. Show them what humanity's best can do." The Thunder's transformation was incredible. Its hull shifted again, revealing even more hidden weapon systems. The quantum shields changed color, now glowing with a deep purple light that seemed to bend space around the ship. The swarm struck first. Thousands of green energy beams converged on the Thunder's position, enough firepower to crack a small moon. The human ship made no attempt to dodge. Instead, its quantum shields didn't just absorb the attack, they redirected it. The energy was caught in a complex web of force fields, swirling around the Thunder like a miniature galaxy. "Energy capture complete," Atlas announced, initiating counterstrike. The Thunder's main guns spoke for the first time. They didn't fire beams or projectiles. Instead, they released concentrated points of light that expanded into massive spheres of pure white energy. Each sphere enveloped dozens of swarm fighters, leaving them powerless and drifting. The high ship launched its planet-killer weapon, a beam of concentrated dark energy that could tear through any known defense. The Thunder's response defied all known physics. Just before the beam hit, the human ship seemed to fold space around itself. The planet-killer beam entered the fold and emerged behind the Thunder, harmlessly shooting off into space. "How is this possible?" Reed demanded over the comm channel. "That ship is centuries old. Age is irrelevant," Atlas replied while orchestrating another devastating attack pattern. Human quantum technology was deliberately hidden to prevent its misuse. The Thunder represents the peak of human military engineering. The battle continued, but it was becoming less of a fight and more of a demonstration. The Thunder danced through the swarm fleet, its gravity drives letting it move in ways that seemed to ignore normal space-time physics. Each attack was precise, efficient, and unstoppable. The Hive ship, realizing its weapons were useless, tried something desperate. It began charging its core for a self-destruct sequence that would destroy everything within a light year. "Warning," Atlas announced. "Detected antimatter cascade building in hostile vessel. Initiating emergency containment." The Thunder's hull opened one final time, revealing its most powerful weapon. A ring of quantum generators created a visible distortion in spacetime. Before the Hive ship could detonate, it found itself trapped in a localized time-stop field. "Temporal containment successful," Atlas reported. Hostile vessel is now experiencing a time dilation ratio of 1 to 10,000. They have effectively been paused. Marcus watched in awe as the mighty high ship hung motionless in space, its crew frozen in time. Around it, the remaining swarm ships tried to retreat, only to be quickly and efficiently disabled by the Thunder's regular weapons. When the last swarm ship had been neutralized, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Hundreds of dead ships floated in space, their crews alive but helpless. At the center of it all, the Thunder hovered quietly, its advanced weapons receding back into its hull as if they had never existed. Battle complete, Atlas announced. 0 casualties on all sides. Mission accomplished. 3 days after the battle, the Thunder's bridge was crowded with visitors. Captain Reed stood with his senior staff, watching as Marcus and Atlas explained the ship's technology to a team of wide-eyed council scientists. The quantum core doesn't just generate power, Marcus explained, pointing to a holographic display. It exists partially outside normal spacetime. That's why it never runs out of energy. He had spent the last 72 hours learning about the ship's systems, and each discovery amazed him more than the last. Impossible, one of the council scientists muttered, his tentacles waving in agitation. This level of quantum manipulation, it would have taken centuries of advancement beyond what humanity possessed at the time. Correction, Atlas interjected. Humanity's public technology level was deliberately understated. The Thunder represents one of 17 experimental vessels constructed during Earth's first expansion era. Reed stepped forward, his gray skin still showing traces of embarrassment from his earlier dismissal of human technology. 17. There are more ships like this one. Affirmative. All vessels of the quantum class were placed in dormant states at different points in space. Each carries unique technological innovations deemed too advanced to release publicly. The holographic display shifted, showing the locations of massive space battles from centuries ago. Humanity fought 3 major wars before developing the quantum fleet. Atlas continued. The experience taught them that introducing too much advanced technology too quickly could destabilize the galaxy. Marcus watched the faces of the council scientists as they studied the Thunder's specifications. Their expressions ranged from disbelief to awe to something close to fear. The non-lethal weapons, one scientist said. Even against the swarm, you chose not to destroy them. Why? Human military doctrine evolved beyond simple destruction. Atlas explained. The Thunder's primary mission was peacekeeping through superior technology. Killing is inefficient. Containment and rehabilitation proved more effective long-term strategies. Captain Reed shook his head in wonder. All this time, we thought we were so far ahead. We treated human technology like primitive toys. But you were watching, weren't you? Learning from us while hiding your true capabilities. Correct, Atlas confirmed. The Thunder has maintained active observation of galactic development for 2 centuries. The decision to reveal our capabilities was based on the swarm threat reaching critical levels. The discussion was interrupted by an alert from the Starseeker. Captain, Navigator Tom's voice came through the comm. The Council Defense Fleet has arrived. They're requesting permission to approach. They seem nervous about the Thunder. Reed couldn't help but laugh. Just days ago, he had dismissed this ship as a relic. Now the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was treating it with cautious respect. Marcus turned to a new holographic display showing the Council fleet. Dozens of their most advanced warships held position at a safe distance, their sensors undoubtedly trying to understand the technology that had so easily defeated the swarm. At last, Marcus asked, "What happens now?" The secret of humanity's true technological level is out. Secondary protocols are now in effect, the AI responded. The Thunder will serve as a bridge between current galactic technology and humanity's hidden advancements. A gradual technology transfer program has been pre-planned for this eventuality. The Council scientists began taking detailed notes as Atlas displayed the first tier of technologies that would be shared. Even these basic systems were centuries ahead of current galactic standards. There will be resistance, Reed warned. Many will fear this level of advancement. Fear is expected, Atlas acknowledged. However, historical data suggests that properly managed technological evolution benefits all species. The Thunder and its sister ships were created not just as weapons, but as guardians of galactic stability. Marcus looked around the bridge, remembering how just days ago they had all laughed at this primitive vessel. Now it stood revealed as one of the most advanced ships ever created, a testament to humanity's foresight and ingenuity. The age of hiding is over, Atlas announced. The true legacy of human engineering can finally be shared with the galaxy. 1 month after the swarm battle, the Thunder floated in high orbit above the Galactic Council's capital world. Its dark hull gleamed in the light of 3 suns, the quantum energy lines pulsing softly. Below, billions of aliens watched in fascination as humanity's true technological power was officially revealed to the galaxy. Marcus stood on the bridge, now wearing a new uniform that marked him as the Thunder's official custodian. Captain Reed stood beside him, their relationship having evolved from skepticism to mutual respect. The last of the swarm ships has been contained, Reed reported, checking his datapad. The Council is using the Thunder's temporal stasis technology to safely transport them to rehabilitation centers. And the Hive ship? Marcus asked, looking at the massive vessel still frozen in time nearby. Still in temporal lock, Atlas responded. The Council's scientists are learning much from studying its suspended state. The technology transfer program is proceeding as planned. The bridge's main display activated, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Council worlds were buzzing with activity as the first wave of human quantum technology was carefully introduced. Shipyards were being retrofitted, power systems upgraded, and medical facilities enhanced with centuries-advanced human science. Signal detected, Atlas announced suddenly. Another quantum-class vessel has awakened. Marcus rushed to the console. Where? A new hologram appeared, showing a distant sector of space. There, another ship similar to the Thunder was powering up, its own quantum core coming to life after centuries of sleep. U.S. Lightning responding to activation protocols, Atlas reported. Her specialty was medical technology and biological research. The Council's healthcare systems will benefit greatly from her database. Reed's antenna twitched with interest. How many more will wake up? All 17 quantum vessels will return gradually, Atlas explained. Each carries different technological specialties: terraforming, environmental restoration, deep space exploration, and more. The Thunder was designated as the primary combat vessel, but our true purpose was always to help guide the galaxy's technological evolution. The bridge crew watched as reports came in from across Council space. The swarm's defeat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Several hostile species had already requested peace talks, having seen the footage of how easily their most powerful weapons were neutralized. Listen to this, Marcus said, reading from his console. The Council's historical division is completely rewriting their texts on human technological development. They're calling it the Great Revelation. Reed chuckled. Hard to believe just a month ago I called this ship a relic. The term relic was not entirely inaccurate, Atlas noted, with what almost sounded like humor in its artificial voice. The Thunder is indeed old. We simply proved that age and capability are not always related. New orders flashed across the main screen. The Council had approved the Thunder's request to begin searching for other dormant human vessels. Each one would be awakened carefully, its technologies introduced at a pace that wouldn't destabilize galactic society. We're receiving hundreds of applications, Marcus said, gesturing to another display. Scientists, engineers, and researchers from every Council race wanting to study aboard the Thunder. Accept all qualified candidates, Atlas decided. The ship was designed to be a teaching tool as much as a weapon. It is time we fulfilled that purpose. The Thunder's engines powered up, the quantum drive bending space in its characteristic way. As they prepared to depart on their search mission, Marcus looked out at the council capitol below. Streets that had once dismissed human achievement now celebrated it. Museums that had displayed primitive human artifacts were being updated to show the truth that humanity had been quietly guiding and protecting the galaxy all along. New course plotted, Atlas announced. The U.S. Horizon, our sister ship specializing in faster-than-light technology, should be awakening in the Carina sector. The Thunder moved gracefully away from the capital world. Its mission changed, but its purpose the same as always: to protect, to teach, and to guide. No longer hidden, no longer dismissed as a relic, it had become a symbol of hope and advancement for the entire galaxy. As they jumped to quantum speed, Marcus smiled. The age of secrets was over. The age of discovery was just beginning.